I couldn't be on air because I was just receiving so many death threats that I had to deactivate everything and just lay low.
Presumably the overwhelming percentage of women would be wearing a headscarf.
What would you be wearing?
It depends on which city you're at. It depends on which area of the city you're at. I would have been dressed like this if I was in Iran.
No head
No
gear
head,
at all?
No.
And you wouldn't have felt in danger?
No. Because even if they stop you, a lot of women do carry a headscarf in their handbag. So
you'd have something on you at
all
times in
case.
case.
They have it in the handbag, and if somebody tells do it, they try to resist, and if they insist, they just put something over their hair. But normally they don't. So, for example, my mother, who's in her 70s, she just doesn't even take it with her anymore.
Wow.
And I had friends who visited Iran in recent months, and at first they were a bit scared, especially because they're dual nationals, and they were scared about being arrested and getting into trouble. But after a few days, they just stopped wearing it.
And how different is that to before last August? If you were in Iran before last August, before the protests, would there have been 100% compliance?
Not 100%, probably 90%.
Rana, the shadow of Nazanin obviously lives long in the sort of the British mind. I mean, you talk freely about what you'd wear if you went back and how you wouldn't be that scared. Do you go back are you a dual national?
I am a dual national, and I haven't been back since I left Iran in 2008 to work for the BBC, and I have been one of the anchors at the channel, and I have received so many death threats that for the time being it's not very wise to risk it.
So you haven't seen any family there since 2000?
No, I haven't.
That's hard.
Yes, but it's harder than being in Iran a journalist and in prison, rather than being in London and a journalist and cover Iran and not being able to go. There are so many journalists inside the country that can't report and have been. In fact, the women who broke the story of Mahsa Amini last September, they have been in prison since then.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
So you're talking like somebody who's not going to go back to her home anytime soon.
No.
And have your family been targeted at all?
Yes. So my parents have been interrogated. The passports have been confiscated. So
they couldn't leave the country if they wanted to?
For a while. So they were under a travel ban for about a year. And then all of the BBC's Persian service, 150 people were being investigated on charges of conspiracy against national security. So there's an open case against all of us. And then my conversations with my parents last November were wiretapped by the Iranian forces, and then they edited it. They published about 2.5 minutes of it, of 15 different conversations, in order to put pressure on me. And then they published it and portrayed me as if I'm someone who's supporting the regime. In my analysis of what was going on, because I was telling my mother that I'm worried about these protests and how they can turn out, and they can easily turn into civil war.
Just by the way they edited the tape.
Yes.
Wow.
And then I had to take 2 months off. I couldn't be on air because I was just receiving so many death threats that I had to deactivate everything and just lay low for it to pass. So yes, the answer to your question, that whether I'm planning to go back, is no.
The Newsagents. This is a Global Player original podcast.